Hello and welcome to another PlayStation 3 tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be looking at installing games to your hard drive, namely PlayStation 1, 2 and 3 games. There are a few differences. I'm going to explain those to you as we go through the tutorial. The first thing we're going to do is go to the game tab, which we're currently on, and as you can see we've got MMCM, that's multi-man. So what we're going to need to do is just press X on MMCM. Right, now if you head over to the game tab, we're going to be putting in a PlayStation 1 game, so let's just do that. And as you can see, it's come up with PlayStation Disc. We do need it to say PlayStation Disc, PAL, NTSC, or the name of the game. So what I'm going to do is just check a few things. Gonna quit and go back to the XMB menu. Just need to make sure I've got my hi-fi hotspot on. It does need to be online. Well, I find it works better if you're online. So there you go. It's all there. We are connected, so we're going to go back into MMCM, and then normally what we have to do here is eject the disk and pop it back in, and we will now get the name of the disk, or we won't. We'll get it. We will say PAL NTSC, but that's good enough. So we head over to the game tab. There's nothing there, so I'm going to eject the disk. I'm now going to just pop it back in. Now you can see it says PlayStation Disc PAL. So what we now want to do is press the triangle button, and it will bring up this menu on the right hand side. Go down to where it says Create ISO, select it. Select the PlayStation 3 HDD. And it will now create the ISO image. So I'm just going to pause the video and I'll see you in about 1 minute. It doesn't take long to do these. See you shortly. Alright, it's just coming towards the end here. And it will just return back to this menu, back to the game menu. You can now eject that disk. Okay. If we go over to the retro tab, you'll now see there's your game, but you're not going to recognize that. So what you need to do is press the triangle button and rename. Okay, now what you want to do is use your trigger buttons to get to .iso, use the backspace to delete the numbers, keep the .iso, and then just put in its place the name of the game. Just me to choose one with a really long name, eh? Okay. And we'll just move to the front where it says ISO and then press enter. And there you can see Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. If I want to run this, I will just simply press X. Multi-man will take us back to the XMB menu, but you'll now notice that you've got PlayStation formatted disc there. Just press X on that. And let's not forget it's actually here, so it's running it from the hard drive. Just hold that there so you can see in the background. It's all booting up. So that's a relatively straightforward process, and it's the same for PlayStation 3 games. So I'm going to show you by putting in a PlayStation 3 game, and then finally we'll do PlayStation 2. As you can see, that's running, that's all good, that's no problem at all. So I'm going to quit out of that. Now, if you are installing games, you've installed a PlayStation 1 or 2 or 3 game, and you're changing formats, I recommend a reboot. And I recommend turning it off. So turn off the system. And then I turn it off at the back as well, so the red light goes out completely. So I'm giving it a hard reboot. Leave it for about 5-10 seconds, turn the switch back on, and then just press the on button, not the eject button like I did originally. Okay. What I also recommend you do each time is update Webman, because you can find your games in Webman Games. So if we go to PlayStation Games there, Tony Hawk's Pro 2 is there. Basically it hasn't updated these because I've deleted those, so I'm just going to go into Webman Setup, PS3 Webman Setup, and to refresh your games, you just simply go to Games, which is on the left hand tab, and refresh. Do you want to close the browser? Yes. We'll then refresh XMB as well. So hopefully now, doesn't always work. Yes, you can see that it recognises we don't have any PlayStation 2 or 3 games, just the one that we've installed on this tutorial, which is here. And the great thing about that is to get to that game, you don't need to go into Multi-Man and select it in Retro. You just go into Webman Games, and then under Webman Setup, choose it. PlayStation 1 game is there. If we've installed 2 and 3, they'll be there in their relative folders as well. So the next thing we're going to do is install a PlayStation 3 game. So we're going to go into Multi-Man. Go to the game tab, so you can see nothing's there currently. I'm going to put in a PlayStation 3 now. It normally recognises a PlayStation 3 game right away, because that's the actual system that we've got in front of us. And there you go, you can see it's recognised it straight off. EA Sports 2014 FIFA World Cup. If we press the triangle button, you can find, this time you don't need to create an ISO. You can actually press copy. If you've got an external hard drive connected, you can select that. In our case, we've just got the PS3 hard drive, so that's what we're going to use. Do you want to copy a game from BD-ROM to internal hard drives? So select yes. And it'll do that for us. So this will take probably about 10 minutes, so I'm going to pause the video and I'll see you towards the end of the install. Right, okay, so as you can see, that's been all done. It will say press the square button to continue, so we just do that. And now you'll see 2 copies of the game. You will have the disc and the HDD. So if we just remove the disc and press refresh, let's try again. It's not going to refresh it out. Okay, well, as you can see, it's on the HDD. If I want to play that, I'll just press the X button. It'll take us back to the XMB menu. We will see the disc icon and we can just select it to play the game. I'm not going to install any updates, but I just want to highlight that the game is working. It's actually doing it from the hard drive because there's the physical disk copy there. It's checking trophies, it can do all of that stuff, it's fine. I'll just pause the video whilst this completes and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so it did take a little while to check trophies. I've got a feeling because I haven't swapped out the hard drive yet. It's a bit of, it just needs a proper reformat and a good check over on the computer. But yeah, I won't be using this hard drive, I'll be using one that I've fully formatted, a full format, which takes about 24 hours, which cleans the drive out completely. Now I'll run tests through it and run a program to make sure it's healthy. This one I don't think is very healthy at the moment, but it has eventually got there, it's installed, it's running, and we can press the start button and play a game. If we had, okay, I don't really want to go into online play. I have got this on this profile set to not allow me to go online because of the custom firmware. Unless I disable Syscos, of course, which is triangle and right 2. I go through all of that in the tutorials for the consoles, the individual tutorials for the customers. Yeah, and as you can see, we can play a game. And it will probably run it more flawlessly from the hard drive, when it's a good hard drive that is on this one. Okay, well, here we go. Just start into the game. And as you can see, it's all working. No problems at all. So I'm going to quit out of that. And then what we're going to do is unmount the game. So always do this after you want to load another game afterwards. Go to Webman Games, Webman Setup, and unmount the disc. Otherwise, every disc you put in, it will think is FIFA World Cup Brazil, and it isn't. Right, okay, so now we're going to do the last one, which is PlayStation 2. I am going to turn off the system before I do it. Whenever you're changing formats, going from one to the other, it's always advisable to do a hard reboot on the system, so that means turning it off at the back as well. Leave it for about 5 to 10 seconds, then you can turn it back on. So earlier when I talked about installing PlayStation 2 games, yeah, and I've also had it freeze at the beginning. That's the hard drive. We've got a bad hard drive here. I do need to sort that out. Anyway, PlayStation 2 installation is exactly the same as PlayStation 1 if your drive doesn't turn the disc in. But if your drive does turn the disc in, you're going to need to go into multi-man mode. I'm going to show you what I mean by that just by coming down to the disc drive here. So there's the disc drive. So if I put in a disc and it turns it in, you can see the disc is turning. Then we need to put this into multi-man mode. If when you eject the disc or put it in, it doesn't turn like that and it just sucks it in straight, then you can basically, it's exactly the same as PlayStation 1 the way we did that. This does turn it in, and a lot of the later fat models do have the newer drive which does turn it in, so you're going to need to follow these steps on that occasion. Right, so you're going to need to go into MMCM, and then as it loads up, put in your PlayStation 2 game. Actually, no, we're not going to put it in the game at all, because we're going to go into multiplayer mode. Anyway, right, so what we want to do is we want to head over to this tab. It currently says MMCM. If we go down to here, switch to multi-man mode, it will reboot multi-man and it will put it into multi-man mode. You'll know it's in multi-man mode because it will say it on this end tab here. Multi-man instead of MMCM. So now we can head over to here and you will see this flashing disc icon. Take your game and pop it in. Here you can see it says Burnout Dominator. You want to press the triangle button and then you want to head down to Create ISO and press X. Select PS3 HDD. You must select PS3 HDD for PlayStation 2 games. And now we'll create the ISO. This will take 5-10 minutes. We'll just pause the video and I'll see you at the end. Well, it's just coming towards the end of the installation process. And there are some steps that we need to do here afterwards. We are not going to be launching the game straight away. Because I have found that there can be some issues with that. So to do this safely, we need to make sure that we do get this running properly. We're now going to follow these steps. Come back over to multi-man menu, go to switch to MMCM mode. So we're just making sure it's going to go back into MMCM, which is the firmware mode for Cobra. Then what we do is we go down and we will go quit multi-man and return to XMB. You can take the disk out. Alright. We want to go into Webman Games, Webman Setup. We want to go into PS3 Webman Setup. We want to go to Games. We want to go to Refresh. We want to close the menu and then it will reload XMB. Now we want to check to see if it's there. We want to go into Webman Games, and now you can see we've got a PlayStation 1 game, PlayStation 2 game, sorry, PlayStation 3 game, PlayStation 2 game, PlayStation 1 game. If we go in there, that's our Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, which we had to rename. So yeah, you may need to do that on some of your ISOs. PlayStation 2 game, Burnout Dominator, it came up with a name, so we didn't have to do that. PlayStation 3 is all there. If you want to run the PlayStation 2 game, you just go into the folder and press X. It will mount it for you. If it doesn't show the disk icon, it's because we do need to do a hard reboot, as I've been doing that between each installation. Just turn off the system. So we should have done that first anyway. And now I'm just going to switch it off at the back for about 5 to 10 seconds. Switch it back on. Fill up the system. Right. So now, if we go into Webman Games, we can now select our PlayStation 2 game, press X. Here you can see it comes up with PlayStation 2 formatted disc, and it loads it for us. So I'm going to leave the end of the tutorial now with just showing that the later fat model is running PlayStation 2 games with no problem. We'll let the demo run. Start. Got a nice long intro to the game so we can just see that. Make sure you set up your memory cards in the XMB menu. I'm not sure we have. It will soon tell us. I don't know we have, that's good. Enjoy.
Burnout Dominator is all about owning the track and dominating your rivals. If you want to get ahead in this game, you'll need to take risks. That means using the streets to your advantage and the traffic like an old friend. First off, you need to know about boost. Driving dangerously earns you boost. Tailgate rivals, drift around corners, drive on the wrong side of the road, and near miss the track. You can also steal boost from rivals by slamming, shunting, and rubbing. But earn the most by making them crash. We call this a takedown. Max out your boost drive, hit boost, and burn it all in one. This is a burnout. Taking risks while burning refills your boost bar. Earn enough, and you will perform a burnout boost chain. Get a long chain going, and really dominate the track. But beware, you can only earn while you burn if your boost is burning blue. We know there are times when a smash can't be avoided, so while you're crashing, activate impact time and use aftertouch to steer your car into the path of oncoming rivals. And don't forget, we've kept a little extra for when you really need it. Time it right and activate Crash Breaker for the ultimate explosive payback. Combine aftertouch with Crash Breaker to take down the rivals you otherwise couldn't reach. Keep your eyes open for signature shortcuts. Take down a rival in the right place, and you'll unlock a whole new way to burn around the track. Now you know the basics, like the domination.
Right, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, put a like and a share and subscribe if you want to get more content like this. Take care, bye.